There is a cleansing needed in our FBI and Department of Justice. It needs to be cleansed of individuals who should not just be fired, but who need to be taken out in handcuffs. Now, there have been times in our history when corruption and lawlessness were so pervasive that examples had to be made. This is one of those times. Handcuffs for Andrew McCabe, Deputy Director of the FBI, the man at the hub protecting Hillary and attempting to destroy Trump. Now, according to Senate Judiciary Chair Grassley, and confirmed, being investigated by the Department of Justice for seeking money for his wife's campaign to run with Hillary from her bagman, Terry McAuliffe, chairman of her presidential campaign and board member of her Clinton Foundation, that slush fund. All the while, McCabe was investigating both Hillary and McAuliffe. Grassley says McCabe, and we've confirmed this as well, is also being investigated by the Office of Special Counsel for violating the Hatch Act, which prohibits political activity by federal employees for using his government email account to distribute contents in his wife's campaign. And at the height of political chutzpah, he actually sends his FBI resume to McAuliffe before he and his wife meet to grovel for Clinton cash. There are also photos of him campaigning for his wife. Now, McCabe is also being investigated by the EEOC on the complaint of a female FBI agent. All investigations have been going on for almost a year, while McCabe still works for our FBI and collects a check from us. Handcuffs, too, for Peter Strzok, a high-ranking FBI agent working under McCabe, the one who actually changed the language from grossly negligent to extremely careless in Jim Comey's exoneration of Hillary Clinton. And also at the hub, Strzok worked with Christopher Steele, the one who wrote the Trump dossier, created, bought and paid for to destroy Donald Trump by the Clinton campaign. Reports are that Strzok was the one who signed the application for a FISA warrant, which was then used to surveil Trump's campaign, which was then used to illegally unmask Americans. But of course, the new director of the FBI, Christopher Wray, refuses to give up that information. And Strzok, after being loaned from the FBI to Mueller's team, almost one and the same at this point, is removed from Mueller's team because of anti-Trump text messages to his mistress, a lawyer for the FBI. And to show you how screwed up Washington is, they send an FBI married guy having an affair with an FBI lawyer to work in human resources, as if he's qualified to counsel on how to conduct yourself at work. And by the way, if that's the only reason Strzok was demoted, why wasn't she demoted? Maybe because that's not the only reason. And Bruce Orr, Assistant Deputy Attorney General, another beaut. He secretly meets with the guys from Fusion GPS, the ones who received money indirectly from the Clinton campaign to write the fake dossier bought and paid for by the Clinton campaign to destroy Trump. And James Comey, the one who exonerated Hillary before the investigation was completed. The man who, with one question, could have indicted Hillary. Did you send United States classified information on an unsecure server? If she says yes, that's a crime. And if she says no, that's a lie. You remember Comey, the one who conducts himself in a holier-than-thou manner. People at the FBI called him Cardinal Comey behind his back. So political, so corrupt. He decides to take over the Attorney General's job to announce no charges against Hillary. The one warning Hillary Clinton at every stage what he's looking for: her iPhone, her laptop, her server, giving her the chance to delete 33,000 emails and then permission to obstruct justice with a hammer, bleach bit, and a delete button. Now, you remember when Comey reopened Hillary's case in October before the election, right after he exonerated her? Everyone started saying, look, this guy is so fair. Folks, he wasn't being fair. The NYPD was going to out him when they found classified information on dirtbag pervert Anthony Weiner's laptop from Uma and Hillary. And Robert Mueller. In a year with a team dedicated to destroying Donald Trump, he can't come up with one piece of evidence. And as hard as the mainstream media tries to make stuff up, like Brian Ross with ABC, CNN, Bloomberg, Reuters, and the Washington Post all in 1 week, They have nothing. So this week, Christopher Wray, the new FBI director, refuses to provide Congress with information.
Did Peter Strzok help produce and present the application to the FISA court to secure a warrant to spy on Americans associated with the Trump campaign?
Congressman, I'm not prepared to discuss anything about a FISA process in this setting.
What was presented to the FISA court?
I do not believe that I can legally and appropriately share a FISA court submission with this committee.
In truth, nothing prohibits the FBI from giving Congress that information. So why is Wray punting? Because a politically contrived dossier used by the FBI to generate surveillance on Trump by the opposing party in a presidential election spells disaster. For the better part of the last year, you and I have watched together as members of Congress beat their chest every time they have a hearing. Well, I, for one, am tired of investigations, politicians posturing. Something more has to be done. The stench coming out of the Justice Department and the FBI is like that of a third world country where money and bullies and clubs decide elections. It all started when Cardinal Comey destroyed our FBI with political hacks to set events in motion to destroy the republic because they didn't like the man we chose to be our president. Well, it's time to take them out in cuffs. And that's my open. Tell me what you think on my Facebook page.
Oversight and Government Reform Committee, Mr. Gowdy, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Goodlatte. Director Wray, somewhere today, a group of our fellow citizens will be asked if they can be fair, impartial, free of bias before they sit in judgment of others on a jury. Even in the smallest of courtrooms where there are nothing but empty seats and no television cameras. Somewhere today, those selected to sit in judgment of their fellow citizens will be told that they must wait until the very last witness testifies and the last piece of evidence has been introduced before they can even begin to deliberate on an outcome. So if our fellow citizens should be impartial and free of bias, and if our fellow citizens must wait until the last piece of evidence is introduced, the last witness is called, before they can reach a verdict, a conclusion, an outcome, then I don't think it's asking too much that the Department of Justice and the FBI do the same thing. There is no member of Congress who holds the department and the Bureau in higher esteem than I do. There are others who hold you in high esteem, but I would take second place to no one. And I have defended the department and the Bureau when, frankly, it was pretty damn lonely to do so. When my Democrat friends were asking that Jim Comey be prosecuted for a Hatch Act violation about this time last year, they now want him canonized. But this time last year, they wanted him prosecuted for a Hatch Act violation. When your predecessor sat right where you're sitting and was embroiled in a fight with this little tiny startup company called Apple, I was on the side of the Bureau. When there are calls for special counsel, even today, I reject them because I trust the women and men of the Department of Justice and the Bureau, the professionals that we hired, to do their job. And the vast majority of line prosecutors and line agents are exactly what you described in your opening statement. They are exactly what you described. But unfortunately, the last 2 years have not been good years for the Bureau, and they have not been good years for the department. We had an attorney general meet with the spouse of a target of an investigation on the tarmac, and asked that an investigation be called something other than an investigation, but be called a matter. We've had an attorney general recuse himself from the largest, most significant investigation currently in his office. We had the director of the FBI appropriate a major charging decision away from the Department of Justice because he was concerned that the public wouldn't have confidence if the Department of Justice handled that decision themselves. We had an FBI director write 2 politically volatile letters weeks before an election. We had an FBI director memorialize conversations he had with the President of the United States because he didn't trust the President's recall of those conversations. And I think what frustrates some folks is when Director Comey wanted special counsel for President Trump, he leaked one of those memos. When he didn't have confidence in Loretta Lynch, we didn't hear a word about it. There were no leaks that prompted special counsel when he didn't trust Loretta Lynch. There were leaks when he decided he didn't trust President Trump. We've had an acting AG fired. We've had the director of the FBI fired. And we can't manage to find prosecutors who haven't donated to presidential candidates. Out of all the universe of prosecutors that you used to work with, and I used to work with, and Johnny Ratcliffe used to work with, we can't find a dozen that haven't donated to major political candidates. And now we have Special Agent Strzok. It was the Inspector General, not the Department of Justice, not the Bureau who found these texts. It was the Inspector General. And I share your confidence in his objectivity. I share it. But it shouldn't have been the Inspector General that had to bring this to our attention 12 months after it happened. And that same agent is the one who reportedly interviewed Secretary Clinton in an interview that you and I have never seen conducted that way before. To have potential witnesses and potential targets sit in on a witness interview, I appreciate your professionalism and your unwillingness to want to say how unprecedented that is, so I'm not going to ask you. I'll just tell you, it's unprecedented. And that same agent is alleged to have been the one that changed the language. You're right, they are synonyms. Extremely careless is a synonym for grossly negligent, which begs the question, why change it? But you and I know why it was changed. It was changed because the statute says grossly negligent. And if you're not going to charge someone, God knows you don't want to track the statute with the language that you use. That would be stupid. What's also stupid is to do that memo 2 months before you've interviewed the target. That memo was drafted before the last witness was interviewed. Director, it was drafted before the target of the investigation was even interviewed. Which makes people wonder, was the decision made before the interviews were finished? And now we believe that that same agent is also involved in the investigation into President Trump and his campaign, and may have interviewed Michael Flynn. That hasn't been confirmed, and we don't know what role, if any, he took in the preparation of documents for court filing. So I'm going to say this because I'm out of time, and I appreciate the chairman's patience with me. You have a really important job. When all else fails in this country, we want to be able to look to the FBI. We want to be able to look to the Department of Justice. When all the other institutions we trust, including Congress, appear to be broken, we want to be able to look to you. It's been a really bad 2 years. I am counting on you to help answer our questions in Congress, our fellow citizens' questions, but I am more than anything counting on you to go back to work for that blindfolded woman holding a set of scales that really doesn't give a whit about politics. That's the FBI that I want.
Time, gentleman, has expired.
Chairman,
the director
Mr.
is
Chairman,
welcome to respond.
Just a 30-second response. First, let me say, Congressman Gowdy, I'm well aware of your longstanding support for the Bureau and the Department, and I want you to know we appreciate it. And second, I want to assure you and every other member of this committee that there is no scenario under which I would have taken the President's nomination if I were not committed to the kind of independent, impartial, objective, and professional pursuit of the facts. I wouldn't be here if I weren't committed to that, and I can give this committee that commitment.